This podcast is rated E for explicit. Share this with someone who was planning to go.
Yeah, I was like 13, sitting on the bed with that little now file, and I was just like planning to go.
But found a reason to stay.
Wow.
I'll never forget, I was planning to go, and I always get so teary-eyed when I think about it. Oh, Jesus.
A reason to fight.
The only reason I didn't go through was because I knew that my little sister was going to be the one that found me.
Just for one more day. You met me in the midst of many things. Shedding skin, sprout wings, looking at life as a spiritual being through a human lens, having conversations with God about so many things. This show is your invitation. The poet God is the conversation. According to DoSomething.org, 20 million Americans suffer from depression every year. 1 in 4 adults will suffer from it before age 24. But on a global scale, 350 million people suffer from depression. Only he who travels the road can tell you about the curves in it. Facts say little about scars hidden by sleeves and scarves, or about tears you can't see. Because some tears flow inward, where we fight a different kind of storm, where all the flooding is deep inside. It's why to others we seem fine, because to our suffering they are blind. Okay. So I want to tell you the story of how I got here with you, how the events of the last year brought me to this avenue. So about a year ago, I had just completed another successful semester, and I was really looking forward to beginning another in the spring. I was so happy and proud of the 3.8 GPA that I had, and focused on maybe achieving another 4.0 semester like I did last spring. But there was a storm coming, and it was one that I just could not ignore. I tell that story with Jasmine, who is also a former classmate, after a recording of a previous episode. I was at the end of the, nearing towards the end of the semester, and it was a different kind of storm. It wasn't like before. It was very subtle. It was it was like somebody had kind of administered you some sort of slow, paralyzing type of, sedative or something like that, and it was really slow. It was really slow. I didn't really know that it was happening until January. Ooh. And that was when school had started again in the spring, and I had enrolled and everything. I was ready. I thought I was ready to go. And then as the semester kind of started to pick up and things became more, more challenging, the classes started to pick up. You got assignments coming in. You got to do it. You got to rise to the occasion. And I couldn't.
This is when things begun to slip away. I was trying to figure out what was wrong, especially because I had been so strong. But this was a different kind of storm.
Everything that I had to lift, so to speak, was too heavy. It started to feel like it was too heavy, And I was like, it wasn't until February. February came around, and I was like, well, sooner or later, I'm gonna have to make a decision. I don't want to drop any more classes. I did that before, and I don't want to, I need to start. I need to shake myself out of this. That's the mindset I was in.
Right.
And it just didn't happen. And then March came around, and it was like really desperate situation because I'm really in danger now, with my grades and everything. And I was doing work, but it wasn't at the level of what I was accustomed. My GPA was 3.8. So I wasn't performing, and at the level that I was accustomed of performing, and I was just, really struggling. I was like, okay, maybe I'll shake out of it,
Right.
And it just didn't happen. And then I got to the point where, okay, maybe I'll just let one of the classes go. And then when I say let it go, because by this time it was too late to drop it.
Oh, jeez.
It was too late it was too late to drop it without consequence.
Right.
And then there become the point where, okay, you can't drop it now because you're too far in.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to just let this class be what it is going to be so that you could maybe salvage the rest? And so that's what I was going to do. I was like, okay, I have 3. I'm going to let one go. And I'm going to try to focus on these 2. And maybe I'll get a C in these 2 or B.
Right.
Maybe. And then that wasn't happening. And that's at that point, Denzel had offered to help, and he was coming over and he was helping me with one of the classes because he had already taken it. So he had notes from it. And, we did some stuff for like maybe 3 weeks or so. Mm-hmm. And then in that space of time, it was just downhill. It became from like a slow slide off a cliff. Mm-hmm. And then it just was a free fall. And then it was like after him, because I knew it was going to happen by that point. And so I just told him, no, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. And because it wasn't at that point, it was no sense in him coming over here to help me with any homework, because I knew that even with that help, there was nothing else. Ooh. And so I went from, trying to hold everything together to just trying to hold me together.
Right.
And everything just kind of did what it did. And I haven't even logged back onto the school website to go and see what those grades were. That's how much I had to remove that out of my That's how much I had to remove that from out of my mental, because I couldn't care about that.
Right.
That was such a heartbreak for me.
Right.
That I had gotten to this point and I had gotten my GPA to that point, and then to have it, that was devastating.
Right.
And so I went through the heartbreak of that. And then it was, well, you're at the point now where you just have to not fall apart.
Right.
And that's all that I could do, because that's where I was at that point. And
that's real low.
Yeah.
And it turns out I needed to be that low. In a Facebook post back in April, I wrote, "Now that I'm here with my face on the ground, I realize the sounds of the pavement are oh so profound. I'm where I need to be for where I now must go. Vulnerable, yet more powerful than I know." Then these words came into my orbit for the first time. They were like the first rays of light after the storm from the sunshine. When I heard them, I knew that something was born, and it was all mine. You met me in the midst of many things, shedding skin, sprouting wings. And of course, the rest of it, as you have now become familiar with, came into form soon after. But it is symbolic of everything that was stripped away, so that something new could come into play.
Might be shaken but not stirred. Just a lesson that I've learned. And so it goes. Tables turn in your own. When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things you took from me, I know that I am so much better. When I look at what I've done, now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better off, and baby, you don't belong. When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things you took from me, I know that I am so much better off. When I look at what I've done, now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better off, and baby, you don't belong.
Hey guys, I'm Joseph, a member of the board, which is what Akil refers to as his community of friends and supporters.
We all have something valuable to give. And sometimes it's as simple as giving someone else a reason to live.
On behalf of all the board members, I want to thank you for listening to our podcast. Akil's success is our success, and we want you to be a part of the community we are building,
It's not enough. It's not enough.
because you are the very foundation we must build it on.
It's not enough to tell people that they matter. We have to show them. Like my friends showed me.
So tell a friend, leave a review, and keep in touch. We want to hear from you because it all matters, just as you do.
You never know what people sitting next to you on the train, bus, or even in church or class might be going through, or how much they can relate to what you're going through. Such was the case with Jasmine, who first became intrigued with my work and later bought my book after listening to an essay I shared in class called A Distant Relative. Depression was a presence that entered my life long before I knew it was there. It slowly closed the blinds and shut out the light. Over the years, death was an option, but I decided I wanted to live. In truth, I deal with depression now like a distant relative who I don't call, write, or care to talk about too much, but one I can never quite forget. A distant relative who taught me that there are some things worse than death.
This is really interesting now because you're telling me what's going on. Because when I heard that Denzel was coming to help you, I was like, Denzel is helping Akil. This is backwards. Don't get me wrong.
Oh my God.
Denzel works very, very hard.
Right.
But his notes
Yeah.
are unbearable.
Yeah. It would have normally been the other way around, right? Yeah.
Not to
No.
be mean to Denzel.
We love Denzel.
We love Denzel, but it would just now hearing
Yeah.
what was going on, it makes
Now it
sense.
makes sense.
It makes sense, but still, it's like it's indicative of what travesty, what's taking place inside.
Yeah.
I mean, which is good that Denzel was there, but it's just it now really just makes sense. As to what's going on? Yeah, that is intense.
It went from November to April. April is when it seems like, it was spring again and, the birds were chirping and the butterflies were out again and the sun was... And then I was just thinking to myself, wow, that was different. I hadn't dealt with that storm before. That was a different kind of thing. It wasn't the kind of thing where I felt like I was going to commit suicide or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was like a storm was barreling down on the house that I had built so strong to keep depression out.
Right.
And it was like, he was, bitch, are you not going to let me in this motherfucking house? And pounding from November to April. And it took everything to just keep it out of that house. It took everything. I had to let go of everything to hold that fort. And keeping me together meant letting everything else go. God was calling me to do something different. And I think that storm had to turn, because I was in a different space. I'm going to finish this degree. I'm going to do this and this and this.
Right.
And the call that I was hearing, I heard it. I heard it from before November, but it just became something that was like, no, you're not. No, you need to refocus on this. This is not. I know what you think you have to do, but I'm not concerned about that.
Right.
I am calling you to do something different. And so the calling that was really even louder after that passed was that I need to do something that answers the call of my ministry of what I'm here to do on the planet.
Right.
That's where it got, really that deep. And it was about using my gifts to uplift people and to speak the words in people's hearts that they aren't often able to articulate, which is what I've always been able to do through my literature, my poetic literature. And so I had to really talk to God about, well, how is that supposed to materialize? Right. And at first I thought I was going to do a YouTube thing. And then as things started to kind of become clear, I was like, no, it's not YouTube. It's not YouTube.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So, well, what is it? And then I believe that God uses a lot of different things and people to talk. And it just started to become more clear through things that I was feeling and hearing in my spirit to things that I actually was seeing materialize. And it came to me that it would be something like this, that it would be a podcast. And not only would it be a podcast, that I would be naked on this podcast. I would come to this podcast and I will tell the truth. It's almost like sometimes, life has to put you on your face in order for you to see what really matters. And after going through that, that's where I got up from that. That's what I came up with. It's like, this is a new day and you are, you're gonna be shedding some skin. And at the beginning of the opening of every episode of this show, I talk about I'm shedding skin and sprouting wings.
Right.
That's the process that depression took me through. It helped me to get there, so that I could be as naked and transparent as I never ever thought I would be able to be in my entire life. But yet here we are. And I don't know that I would be here. I don't know that I would be here if it wasn't for that storm that kind of stripped everything away that I thought was important and that I thought I should be doing and that I thought mattered. And, sometimes I think that's what storms do, right? They strip everything and they leave you, if you're lucky, with your life to reconsider.
Right.
And to rethink and to recalculate and then refocus on what's important.
Oh, my goodness. Woo.
Did you make it? Did you break free? Did you manage to be who you want to be? Maybe somewhere you think about me too. I wonder where are you now? Wonder where are you now?
If you've never dealt with depression, good. It's great. But I feel like there's like a beginning of it, and then it never really goes away. And like you said, it's like a distant relative. And I remember when you wrote that, and I feel like that's really when our quote unquote crew really came together.
Yeah.
But I think it's because with depression, I feel like everyone can relate on a even if it's a small level of it. I mean, I equate I've been dealing with it personally since I was about 12.
Wow. Do you remember what that felt like at 12?
At 12, it was, I think, I would say like mental chaos. I was dealing with, I was living in Korea at the time. But I just felt like I didn't have anyone, if that makes any sense. Like, I felt like I didn't have anyone I could talk to. I mean, I had a whole group of friends. I was always the funny one. You're always having a good time with friends.
But even within that those friends.
Within that, it was just like, it's kind of like people don't understand, like, even if you tell me I can come to you and talk to you, like, you're not going to get it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's...
And doesn't it... Oh, God, it solidifies that you don't understand narrative in our heads when you make those comments like, oh, well, just feel better.
Yeah. Like,
I don't understand why you just get over yourself. When people say insensitive things like that.
And, like, especially when you had just brought up, like, when people talk about, like, celebrities.
Yeah.
And I would say especially celebrities, because that's when people pay attention.
Right.
I would say, even if it's for a moment. Usually it's a fleeting moment.
Yeah.
People, they don't really think about... They lose the idea. They think about themselves and not about the person.
Yeah.
I think, especially when people discuss suicide, I think every person especially people who are, I feel like true depression, not saying that you want to end your life, but you want it to end.
Right. You want the pain to end.
You want the pain to end.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like no matter what you do, nothing's going right. So I know for me at 12, I was cutting at 12.
Wow.
I remember, I will never forget, I had a moment, and I think I was probably like 13 at the time. I had like this old, it's so horrible. I had this old metal nail file, and I was cutting, and it was, I had literally just, I was done. I mean, because you gotta imagine, like, I was going to church, and like, I remember my mom, she would come in the room, and she would like put oil on my feet. I guess like pray over me and put oil on my feet, because she had found out that I was cutting, because I had told a friend, which was smart. It was in, I would say it was in divine hands. It was in the divine plan.
Right.
Because I was doing it for probably a couple months. Then I had like mentioned it. I think I had mentioned it. I'm not sure how it came up. Probably someone probably saw my sleep or something. And
so where were you cutting?
on my arms.
Okay.
I'm harboring the fact that like no one, in my eyes, like no one's listening to me. With anything.
Right.
Like,
you just getting buried.
Yeah, so it's like you just get buried in it, and then it's like I will never forget, like, I was like 13, sitting on the bed with that little nail file, and I was just like planning to go. Wow. I'll never forget, I was planning to go, and I always get so teary-eyed when I think about it. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Then I'll never forget the only reason I didn't go through. Because, mind you, I mean, a slit of a wrist is literally, you get closer and closer. And I had like a balcony on the outside of like my room. Like you could go through, there's sliding doors. And there's a balcony. And I'll never forget, because my sister's room was right across. And the only reason I didn't go through was because I knew that my little sister was going to be the one that found me.
And like what I always say to people who don't understand what that is, it's a blessing if you don't understand. Depression is not something that you want to personally understand. You trust me, you don't want to personally understand it. But understanding should not be a prerequisite for your compassion.
Exactly.
And your empathy and your humanity. You're being able to recognize that somebody else is in pain, and just being a human being, being loving and being kind. I don't understand a lot of other things that people go through. Doesn't mean that I need to be an asshole about it.
I know, that's right.
And the last thing I want to do is contribute to somebody's reasoning for why they don't want to be here anymore.
Absolutely. Because depression isn't like, you can't just code it.
Right.
Everyone's is different.
Exactly, that too.
For me, I can be having...
There's levels to this shit.
There are. I mean, people don't understand. Like, I can literally be having... Like, in my head, I'm like, this is a beautiful day. So why am I sad?
Right.
It's like, even then, it's like, sometimes it's like, you are perfectly aware of, people, especially super religious people.
Right.
God is the way. Just pray about it.
God, I hate
like
when people say that.
It's a great day. But my thing is, people also don't realize that, especially before considering suicide, they've done everything. I'm telling you, my mom was putting oil on my feet. I shouldn't be ashy forever.
Talking about that though, did you watch 13 on Netflix? 13 Reasons?
No, I haven't. But I read the book.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I haven't watched it, because I don't know. I don't want to be disappointed.
Oh, okay.
But I heard it was intense.
It was intense. It inspired. It triggered. It did so many things to me. I remember when I was watching season 1, I was watching it basically in between trips at work and stuff, and I cried so much because it just takes you on a real, journey through what it's like to be back there experiencing what that is, the gravity of everything that it is. Because of depression, I don't tolerate a lot of the things that I used to tolerate from people. Absolutely. Because I realized that, listen, I don't have it to give you. I can't care that much about this thing because I simply don't have that kind of energy to give you. And you start taking real inventory of what the things that you're giving to people.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, listen, and that's one of the things that's happening for me, really getting clear with and coming to this point where I feel like I can be the kind of person who is gonna do this podcast the way I want it to be done. I'm coming here 100% naked,
right?
Because I don't have any time for any other bullshit.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I've gotten to now. That's what it's taken. Everything that I've been through up until this point has gotten me to this space and this place of doing that. So it's important for me to create this environment so that other people can feel like they can come here and do the same. A space of authenticity.
Exactly.
I think that's the best thing that I could offer.
And I think that really brings up a good point, how you're like, I just don't have it to give you.
No.
I have very few friends where I can hop on the phone and I'm like, I need to vent.
Right.
And it's just about me venting.
Right.
And we're finding a solution for my vent.
Right.
I have way more friends that are like, so like, I know you're upset, but let me tell you about my life. It's like, excuse me. We've listened to the same song.
Right.
It's my turn for the emotional aux cord.
Do you find that people don't know how to listen well a lot of times?
I think so. And I think that's why people go the measures that they do.
Yes, I think so too.
Because
I think so too.
Like, I would even say, on a personal note,
mm-hmm.
I am, now that I'm older,
mm-hmm.
I'm way more vocal. So I went, when I was younger, it'd be small stuff. I mean, small stuff that contributes, though.
Right.
There's a reason I hate group projects.
Mm-hmm.
Is because no one ever listens.
Right.
No, and my thing is because I had the wrong groups.
Right.
People come to me because I'm either the smart kid or
yeah,
whatever.
I hate group projects too.
Or I would get like, people would tell me, like, imagine like you're talking amongst yourselves, right?
Right.
You're giving off ideas. I'd say my idea, no one's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Then someone next to me says the exact same thing I said, and now it's some grand idea.
Right.
So now I'm to the point where I'm like, excuse me, you're going to hear my idea because no one else is taking credit.
Right.
For my idea.
Right.
And I think it's because I've been so overshadowed
mm-hmm.
for whatever reasons. It's like now I'm more comfortable
mm-hmm.
to say like, no, you're going to listen to me.
Right.
Not saying like in a negative way.
No, I know what you're saying.
But like, people don't listen.
And as it relates particularly to people who are struggling with depression, they already don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
But then when they have to deal with people who don't listen well, it's almost like an incentive to go deeper within themselves.
Exactly.
And it's a bigger leap to share whatever it is they can articulate about something that's complex as it is, and then to be met with the insensitive kind of vibe that a lot of people give. It could be too much.
So it's just like you keep it all inside, and then it's kind of like you don't really, like you said, you don't realize when it's happening.
Mm-hmm. It creeps up.
It creeps up. I can't even tell you when I started cutting.
Wow.
Because I can't even tell you how I found out about it.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened, and I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you'll look at anything as a way out. Like, I've looked at my balcony as means to go. I've looked at, or you even think about, how can I go and no one know that I'm there?
Right.
And it gets there.
I was thinking back the other day when Anthony Bourdain committed suicide. A friend had asked me if, when things like that happen, does it worry me? And I don't even remember how I answered that question. I was thinking that I wanted to answer it in a particular kind of way because I didn't want to worry them. But the truth is, it does worry me. And I think because it reminds me of how fragile life can be.
Oh yeah.
And when you're dealing with depression, how fragile your mental health can be. And which is why I have to be a good steward of that, of monitoring myself, and you're gonna have to be that lighthouse,
Right.
looking for that storm, because you want to make sure that it doesn't creep up on you like we know it can.
There was a lady actually that I was going to bring up. And so she was talking about depression, and anytime I see a post like that, I have to watch it before I decide to read it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So she was like, some of y'all have this fake depression and blah blah blah. She was like, depression's when you can't get up out of bed, depression's when you don't even want to eat, depression's when you do this, depression's when you do that. I'm like, excuse me, I'm a high-functioning depressed person.
Right.
And I think that's what people don't recognize.
Right.
People know what severe depression looks like for, I would say, arguably, a lot of people on a regular day.
Right.
Like, you see the little Lunesta commercial or whatever
right.
the person is. Excuse me if that's but, you see the whole, if you can't get out of bed, take this. You see that. And for some people, they need that. However, I have dealt personally with more people you would never even expect. Like we said before, I've met more people you would never expect to have depression because they're so high energy, so funny,
it's
so
not
charismatic.
It doesn't always look like what you think.
Exactly. So the only thing is, that's why you have to check up on people.
Yep.
Be like, hey, are you
very
okay?
important. And just because they're posting shit on Facebook and Instagram doesn't mean everything is all right. Yeah. In fact, like somebody said, those are the people that you really need to check up on.
Imagine you lose a friend. Or it's like, because you've been through that, it's like, God, like, he didn't make it.
Right, yeah.
And that's why I tell people, like, just try. Because the thing is, if you try, you did something.
Yeah. One step at a time.
You can try.
1 hour at a time.
That means you're laying in bed and you stay up for 30 minutes.
Right. That reminds me of a song that I wrote one morning when I woke up. And I called it My Story because it was about me hating myself to a place where I didn't hate myself. And it was good to be at a place where I could write a song about it that expressed that. Because at the time when I felt what that felt like to hate yourself, I didn't know, it felt like I would feel that forever. And so it just felt good to sing that song. And thankfully I was in LA at the time, and one of my roommates was he was taking music as his major, and so he was like, oh, let's do something with this, let's do something with these words. And it came out, it was a fun little project. And it ended up becoming this nice little personal kind of theme song for me.
I was longing for a change. I didn't know how to turn the page. Now I found out something more. I'm so ready to explore. I used to hate myself, but I don't
doesn't mean that I'm alright. It doesn't mean I've won the fight. It soon will be morning now. I see my way through the clouds.
Speaking about writing, Maya Angelou had a saying where she says she always tries to look for the rainbows in her clouds. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I kind of try to, take with me. When things happen that are bad, you try to find the sweet in the bitter.
Depressed people are really good at helping depressed people. We come up with all these great strategies.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things where I don't think you're ever cured.
No. It's the distant relative.
It's the distant relative, like you said.
Keep that bitch across town. You cannot come to visit for Thanksgiving.
Right. You can't get none of this good meal.
Not Christmas, not my birthday.
If you still hate yourself and there's no joy to be found, the pain that you feel inside is why the tears are coming down. The pen is in your hands. My story's not by chance. So what are you gonna do? The next chapter's up to you. I used to hate but I don't anymore. I was walking towards the clear. Now I'm walking towards the shore.
I started this podcastic journey. It felt like flying, never having flown before. So you can imagine that it's probably a little terrifying. And shortly after taking off, there was another bout of depression that came like turbulence, too severe to ignore. So I found a way to embrace it, to serve the purpose I came here for. Every experience is too precious to waste it. So I try to mix a portion of poetry good enough so that you may taste it. My hope is that you will understand how this life feels through my hands. Every grip and the way it feels when it slips away despite my plans. When memories become like particles of sand, these words will become like monuments that stand to represent the history we had. God asked me to come naked as I know how to be, to answer the call of my destiny, knowing that depression's latest storm had already done me the favor. Now the rainbow in the clouds has led me to a new love for which I must labor. Sometimes the gifts we were born to give to others also saves us. If that's true, maybe the ways in which I aim to shed some light for you will enlighten my path a little bit too. I hope to build bridges of understanding, strong enough for us to walk across together,
so that when we look at one another, we can see ourselves more clearly in each other. So I have agreed to be naked for this deed. Fail or succeed, I'm not sure I'll live to know. But God said what is waiting on the other side of this journey will be worth what I had to encounter to go. I surrender what little I have to give, and I pray for the strength to remain faithful so that I may see realized what I cannot create alone. Ultimately, I am subject to His plans, and humbly, I am only the stone in His hands. I'm Akil Johnson, the Poet God. Thank you for listening.